I saw a cart going south toward the port. A woman and a boy, maybe." She shrugged and held out her hand again. "Maybe it was a girl after all. I'm not sure." Something was in his eye, scratching. He rubbed at it with his thumb, then broke off a second piece of bread, a piece no bigger than his thumbnail. She put the bread in the sleeve of her dress, cupping her hands over her eyes, her long dark hair blowing against her face. "They were going down the road, each holding one of the cart poles. I don't know how long ago." His eye was tearing now. He sank down on the ground, using the edge of his sleeve to get rid of the sand, then reached into his pocket to find something, anything he could use to take it out. "A ribbon," she said. "Look." He opened his eyes, squinting to see Nory's ribbon caught by the wind, held against one of the reeds, then free again and blown across the strand. He reached for it, but then it was gone, with the girls scampering after it. He stood there thinking about the ribbon and all he had lost. He could still feel the grain of sand in his eye. He picked up the three-legged stool and went on, walking the last miles, hurrying, sometimes running. He'd catch up with Mam and Patch. How much slower they'd be than he was, even though he kept criss-crossing the road, climbing the dunes, searching the water's edge. Why hadn't they waited for him? And he was tortured by worry. Maybe the cart the girl had seen hadn't been his cart at all. 2 days later, he reached the port. His eye was still sore, but the sand had washed itself out. He carried the stool over his head. He had thought about leaving it 12 times. Once he had even set it down on the road, but he had gone back for it. When Mam had closed the door of the house for the last time, she had taken it with her. "There's no room on the cart," he had said. What was she thinking of? She had shaken her head, her face rough. "It's what I have." How unlike her it had seemed. Mam, who told him he was wasting time when he watched the sunlight sliding across the floor in patterns, who became angry when she saw him petting the goat's wiry head. Her stool had rocked back and forth in the wagon. Pa had taken the wood from an old tree, cut it and smoothed it, and at the end carved a small rose in the centre. Strange for him to remember Mam's words. "It's what I have." How many of them had sat on that stool when they were all home? He or Francie, Liam, Michael, Mary, Da, or sometimes Granny, leaning a little to even it out on the rough earth of the floor. On dark evenings Granny had told stories, and so had Da, and he had listened, staring into the glow of the peat fire, seeing the shapes of the people they talked about there. A dreamer, they all called him, laughing. All he had now. Even his ticket was gone, tucked in under a loose board in the cart. He had eaten the Englishman's food, a little bit each time, saving some for when he found Mam and Patch. But the crumbs of bread and the lard that filled his stomach made him feel worse. Would he ever see them again? On the pier below there was an explosion of noise and colour. Men rolled barrels and shouted at each other. An endless line of people with packages and boxes, and even a few with squealing shoats in their arms, waited in front of an office door. Beyond them was the ocean, grey and angry as the rain began. The harbour was dotted with ships. He went down the hill and wandered back and forth across the quay. Were Mam and Patch on one of those ships? And always he wondered, why hadn't they waited for him? He crouched on the filthy quay. Should he keep going? And how could he do that without a ticket? He went to the line of people and stood at the end. The line moved slowly, and he began to talk with the man ahead of him. "It'll take £2 for a ticket," the man said, "and they'll give you enough food and water to stay alive. Just alive." £2. More money than he had seen in a lifetime. He wanted